Today we're going to discuss 10 of the top cities across the United States and what you can buy in those cities for $500,000. Starting off in the mountains and in the cold, Salt Lake City, Utah. Salt Lake City has an average home price of $532,400, and this is about what you can expect to buy for $500,000 in Salt Lake, Utah. The average income is $45,833, and sadly 50% of the people in Utah cannot afford the average home price. The overall cost of living in Salt Lake City, Utah is $118.9 versus the average $100 across the nation. That means that living in Salt Lake is about 19% more expensive than it is to live in the average American city. And the housing market in Salt Lake gets a score of 169, meaning that it's 69% more expensive than the typical city in America to live. But it does score a 7.2 in the comfort index, basically rating the climate of the area out of a 10. So that's a pretty good score. You are going to get about 54 inches of snow, so be prepared for that. Next up on our list is Dallas, Texas. The average home value in Dallas, Texas is going to be about $259,800. But if you are going out into the other areas, the other cities surrounding Dallas and Fort Worth, the prices are going to be much different. So if you're shopping around DFW and looking to buy a $500,000 home, these are the homes that you can expect to afford and to be able to buy. The overall cost of living in Dallas is 101.6, so just about 1% higher than the national average, which is really good. And the cost of housing in Dallas just gets a 92.9, so it's actually cheaper than the average home across America. And as far as the comfort index, it gets a 7.1 out of 10. It does get pretty hot in the summers, getting about 95 degrees in July, and it also gets down to about 26 degrees in January, but you don't really get any snow. Next up, get ready for some rain. We're going over to Seattle, Washington. Now you're going to want to buckle up for this one because the median home price in Seattle, Washington is $851,400. So it's going to be pretty tough to find a good home for around $500,000. So this is what you can expect to find, and really there's just not a lot of options. The overall cost of living in Seattle gets a 172, so it's 72% more expensive than the typical city. And the housing score in Seattle gets a 309, meaning that it's over 200% more expensive to buy a home in Seattle versus somewhere else across the states where you could find an average home. But you do get a 7.5 out of 10 climate score, the best we've had so far. You are going to have quite a few rainy days, but the highest temperatures in the summer is only going to be about 76 degrees. Now heading very far south and to the east, we're going over to Miami, Florida. The average home price in Miami is $398,100, and this is about what you can expect to find in Miami for around the $500,000 mark. The cost of living overall is 23% more expensive than the national average, getting a score of 123. And the cost of housing in Miami gets a score of 142, which compared to the average just in Florida of 102, Miami is 40% more expensive than anywhere else in Florida where you can find an average home. And with Miami, you're going to have a lot of humidity and quite a bit of heat, and so the climate index gets you a 6.4 out of 10, the lowest score so far. Now next up, if you want to be really hot, we're heading over to Phoenix, Arizona, where the average home price is $346,100, and this is about what you can expect to find and buy in Phoenix for around the $500,000 mark. The overall cost of living in Phoenix gets a 103.7, and the overall housing cost in Phoenix gets a 103.5. So Phoenix is really close to the average in terms of overall cost of living and housing cost of living. But it is going to be very hot. The climate index gets a 7.3 out of 10, and it's going to get to about 105 degrees in the summer. Now, if you'd like to get a lot of bang for your buck, let's head over to Kansas City, Missouri. Your money's really going to stretch here because the average home price is just $195,300, and you can find some pretty good houses for around the $500,000 mark, especially when you compare them to some of the other homes that we were seeing. The overall cost of living in Kansas City is just 86.2, and the housing cost of living is only 63.9, meaning that Kansas City is a much cheaper place to live than most other places in America. Now get ready for some stark contrast because we're heading over to San Francisco, California, and it's a much different scenario over here than it is in Kansas City. The median home price in San Francisco is a whopping $1,471,200, and really this is all you can expect to buy in the $500,000 mark. You don't really get a lot for your money, and you really have to spend a lot more to get a decent home. The overall cost of living in San Francisco gets a score of 269. Remember that a score of 100 is the average across America. And then the housing cost of living in San Francisco gets a whopping 596.2 score. That means it's about 500% more expensive than the average home price in America. Now, there may be a big reason that people are moving to San Francisco and spending all of this money, and it's because it gets an 8.5 out of 10 climate score. It's basically perfect over there. The high temperatures in summer gets to about 70 degrees or so, and the lows in the winter gets only to about 46. So you have nice weather throughout the entire year. So if you're living in San Francisco, you better be ready to be making a lot of money. And if that's not really your jam, well, you can head over to Chicago, Illinois, because the average home value in Chicago is only $291,200, and you can actually get a lot more for your $500,000 than you could get in San Francisco. The overall cost of living in Chicago is just 106.9, so only 7% more expensive than the national average. And the housing cost of living actually comes in a bit under average at just 99.1. Now let's move even a bit farther east over to Philadelphia, where you have an average home value of about $221,400, and you can get a lot of bang for your buck if you're shopping around the $500,000 mark. The average cost of living in Philadelphia is just 101.2, so right around the average for America, and the housing costs in Philadelphia actually come in quite a bit lower than the national average, at about 66.3, which is over 30% cheaper than the average home. Now let's shoot a bit west again, and we're gonna go over to Minneapolis, Minnesota. The average homes here are $330,700, and this is about what you can expect to find and buy around $500,000 in Minneapolis. The cost of living is 106.5, so about 6% higher than average, and the housing cost of living is a bit more expensive at 117.5. And also keep in mind that if you're gonna be living in Minneapolis, you can expect about 52 inches of snow per year, so get your snow boots on. Let me know which of these cities you would be most interested in living, and let me know what cities I should discuss in a future video. Thanks for watching.